Mr. Brendan Lee, Chief Executive Officer of the Council for Private Education, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's really with great pleasure that I join all of you this morning because I think that this is an important conference. It's going to set the tone and direction for private education going ahead. And it's important because we would like everybody to be on the same page. And the fact that all of you are here shows your keen interest in the area and a desire, I think, to make sure that we go forward in the same direction. So I would like to thank all of you for taking the time off to come here and be part of this conference. When the Private Education Act was introduced 3 years ago, it was a particularly challenging time for the sector. At that time, the sector had experienced a few years of rapid expansion with large growth in student enrollment, but unfortunately, the lack of a strong regulatory framework to accompany the rapid growth allowed the entry of some fly-by-night operators into the sector. The proliferation of unscrupulous practices and sudden school closures threatened to bring the entire sector into disrepute. The government therefore had to act to protect the interests of students and also to safeguard Singapore's reputation in education. And we had 3 objectives. The first was to ensure a basic level of protection for students, including the safeguarding of course fees. Second, to raise the quality of providers to meet a minimum standard in their academic processes and corporate governance. And third, to improve access by consumers to information on providers and courses. And I'm glad to note that the sector has now achieved the baseline standard in all 3 areas. You will hear more about this progress and the latest state of the sector in the next address by Brendan, but these improvements will not come by easily. They are the result of the combined efforts of the Council and industry. So thank you all for the hard work that you've put in so far. As we move into the 4th year of the new regulatory regime, what can the industry expect? What is the long-term direction? We've made much progress, and the private education sector today is quite different from what it was 3 years ago. But as you may have deduced from the theme of this conference, we still need to build on the foundation that was laid over the past few years and to do more. I would like to share today 3 points on how we can make a real and sustained difference to quality in the sector. The first is expanding our measures of quality to include student outcomes. Our regulatory framework currently centers on the quality of governance and processes. The Council will work with the industry to ensure that the threshold standards that have been achieved do not slip. We will also fine-tune the regulations to increase their effectiveness while being mindful to avoid imposing an unnecessary burden on institutions. But beyond ensuring quality governance and processes among private education providers, real quality improvements in the sector can only be achieved if we start looking at the performance of providers in terms of student outcomes. What knowledge and skills have graduates of private education institutions gained through their studies? How satisfied are they with the education received? And did they meet their goals for enrolling in these courses? Without the answers to these kinds of questions, there's insufficient basis for us to ascertain the true quality of private education and to identify areas for improvement. For these reasons, we would like, eventually, to see private education institutions demonstrate the ability to attain positive student outcomes. I say eventually, as this won't be an easy task, and it will take time to achieve. There are several issues that we will first need to resolve. For example, there is currently no clear consensus on the desired outcomes from private education. Are institutions responsible only for ensuring that their students successfully complete their programs, or should they also be held accountable for employment outcomes of their graduates?